Michael Jackson was in the middle of the biggest concert of his career. 20,000 people screaming his name, lights blazing, music shaking the floor, and then he stopped. Not a pause. Not a technical glitch. He stopped everything, walked to the edge of the stage, knelt down in front of everyone, and what he did next made 20,000 people go completely silent. But wait, this wasn't just a concert moment. This was the end of a story that had started 18 months earlier in a hospital room, with a little girl who had 3 months to live. Nobody knew that part until now. Let me tell you, August 1996. Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, room 14, had a window that faced the parking lot. Not much of a view, but 7-year-old Sofia Reyes didn't care about the view anymore. She cared about the music. Sofia had been diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia 14 months earlier. Stage 4. The doctors had been honest with her parents. The treatment was aggressive. The odds were not good. Her mother, Elena, had quit her job at the bakery. Her father, Roberto, was working double shifts at the warehouse. Every dollar went to treatment. Every prayer went to the same place. But Sofia didn't talk about fear. She talked about Michael Jackson. She had one cassette tape, worn almost through, dangerous. She played it every single day on a small yellow player that sat on her bedside table. The nurses knew every song by heart. They had heard them hundreds of times. Sofia couldn't walk much anymore. The treatments were brutal. Some mornings she couldn't lift her head, but when the music played, something happened to her face. The pain went somewhere else. Just for a little while. Her favorite song was Heal the World. She didn't just listen to it. She drew it. Crayon pictures. Houses with smoke coming from chimneys. Children playing in green yards. A sun with a face. Every picture had the same caption, written in careful 7-year-old handwriting. My home someday. The hospital social worker, a woman named Diane Torres, collected those drawings, kept them in a folder. She had worked in pediatric oncology for 11 years. She had seen a lot. But Sofia's drawings did something to her that she couldn't explain. September 1996. The doctors called Elena and Roberto into a private meeting. The latest scans were not good. The leukemia had not responded the way they had hoped. They were adjusting the protocol, but the family needed to be prepared. Elena walked back to room 14. Sofia was drawing. Another house, another son. Elena sat down next to her daughter and didn't say a word. Sofia looked up, handed her mother the drawing. The son had a face. It was smiling. Elena held that piece of paper and did not cry. Not in front of Sofia, she would cry later, in the parking lot, alone, for 40 minutes. But in room 14, she smiled back. Here is where the story takes a turn. Nobody expected October 1996. Diane Torres had a contact, a small connection through a children's charity that sometimes arranged visits. She had used it twice before. Both times nothing had come of it. She wrote a letter anyway. She described Sofia, the cassette tape, the drawings, the crayon houses with smoke and sun. She did not exaggerate. She did not ask for money. She simply wrote the truth. She sent it and forgot about it. 3 weeks later, her office phone rang. The voice on the other end was quiet, professional. The call lasted 4 minutes. Diane's hand was shaking by the end of it. She hung up. Saturday, very still. Then she walked to room 14. Sofia was asleep. The yellow cassette player was on the bedside table. Heal the World playing at low volume. Diane stood in the doorway for a long moment. Then she went to find Elena. The 3rd of November, 1996. A Sunday. A black car arrived at Children's Hospital at 7:14 in the morning before visiting hours. Before the day staff arrived. Before anyone had a chance to say no. The man who stepped out wore a black coat and a hat pulled low. He carried no entourage, one assistant, one security person. That was all. He asked to go in quietly, no cameras, no announcement, no press. The night nurse almost turned him away. Almost. She looked at his face. She let him in. He walked down the corridor of the pediatric oncology ward, room 12, room 13, room 14. He stopped at the door. Sofia was awake, sitting up in bed. The yellow cassette player was in her lap. She was looking at the parking lot window. She turned her head. And she saw him. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just went completely still. Her eyes went very wide, and then, slowly, she smiled. He walked in, sat her down in the chair next to her bed, and for the next 2 hours, he stayed. He looked at every single drawing, every crayon house, every smiling sun. He asked about each one, he listened. He didn't rush, he didn't check the time. At one point he picked up a blank piece of paper from her tray, asked her to show him how she drew the sun. She took the crayon and drew it face and all. He watched every stroke. Before he left, he took the drawing she had made for him, folded it carefully, put it in his coat pocket. He also left something behind, an envelope, handed to Elena in the hallway. Elena didn't open it until he was gone. Inside was a handwritten note and 2 tickets. The note said one thing: she should be there. The tickets were for his concert, the 14th of December, Forum Arena, Los Angeles. The 14th of December, 1996. Forum Arena, Los Angeles, 20,000 people. Sofia arrived in a wheelchair, oxygen tank attached to the side, yellow shirt, her hair was gone from the treatment. She wore a small white bow instead. Elena had dressed her carefully that morning. Roberto had taken the day off work. First day off in 4 months. They had seats near the front. A staff member had arranged everything quietly. No announcement, no VIP sign. Just 3 seats reserved. Sofia sat in her wheelchair and looked at the stage. The lights, the rigging, the screens. She didn't say anything. She just held her mother's hand. The concert began. Michael Jackson came out of the smoke and the noise and the screaming, and Sofia's face did something that Elena would describe years later as the only word she had for it. Complete. She looked complete. The concert ran through song after song. The crowd was electric. Sofia watched every move, every spin, every moment. And then, about 40 minutes in, something changed. Michael Jackson slowed down, walked to the front of the stage. The band went quiet behind him. The lights shifted, softer, warmer. He looked out at the audience, and he stopped. The crowd felt it immediately. Something was different. 20,000 people settled. He was looking at the front section, searching. And then he found what he was looking for. He looked directly at... He came down from the stage. Security moved with him. He walked to the barrier, knelt down face to face with a 7-year-old girl in a wheelchair, oxygen tank beside her, white bow in her hair. 20,000 people watching. He took her hand, the white glove, her small fingers. He said something to her. Clothes just for her. Sofia nodded, very slowly. And then she smiled, the same smile from room 14. He reached into his jacket, took out a folded piece of paper. It was the drawing. The sun with the face. The one she had made for him in the hospital. He had kept it, carried it for 6 weeks, and now he gave it back. He pressed it into her hands. Then he stood up, looked at her one more time, and walked back to the stage. The arena was silent for 3 full seconds. Then it broke. 20,000 people, all at once. Elena couldn't see anything. Her eyes were full. Roberto had his head down. The man next to them, a stranger, was wiping his face with his sleeve. Sofia looked at the drawing in her hands. The sun she had made returned. She held it against her chest. But wait. Here is where the story gets even more incredible. The next morning, Diane Torres received a phone call from a lawyer's office. An anonymous donation had been made to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, specifically designated for the pediatric oncology ward. New equipment, staffing, a renovation of the family waiting area that had been falling apart for 6 years. The amount was $1.2 million. The donor's name was sealed. The lawyers would only confirm it was legitimate and final. Diane sat at her desk for a very long time after that call. She went to room 14. Sofia was asleep. The drawing was on the bedside table, unfolded next to the yellow cassette player. Diane stood in the doorway. The same place she had stood 2 months earlier. She didn't go in. She just stood there. Then she went back to her office, and she wrote in her case notes, at the bottom of the file, the 15th of December, 1996. Something happened here that I don't have the right words for. Sofia Reyes did not die in 3 months. The adjusted protocol worked, slowly, painfully. But it worked. By spring of 1997, the scans were different. By summer, The word the doctors used was remarkable. By 1999, Sofia was in remission. She was 9 years old. She went back to school. She kept drawing. She never stopped drawing houses. Years passed. Sofia grew up. She studied architecture. She said later that she had always known what she wanted to build homes, real ones. With smoke from chimneys and children in yards, she graduated, got a job at a firm in Los Angeles, designed affordable housing projects. Every year on the 14th of December, she took the drawing out, the crayon sun with the face. Faded now, creased from years of folding and unfolding. She kept it in a frame above her desk, the 25th of June, 2009. Sofia was 20 years old. She was at her drafting table when her phone started going off. She read the alerts. She set her phone down, looked at the drawing above her desk for a long time. Then she took it down from the wall, held it, and she understood something she hadn't fully understood before. He had known, that night at the hospital, sitting in the chair beside her bed. He had known what the doctors had told her parents. He had known the odds. He came anyway. Before the cameras, before the world could see it. He came in a quiet car at 7 in the morning and sat for 2 hours and looked at every drawing and listened, because that was who he was. A journalist named Rebecca Walsh was working on a long-form piece about charitable giving in the entertainment industry. She had a source, a single document from an estate lawyer's office, partially redacted. She spent 8 months following it. What she found changed the scope of the article entirely. Michael Jackson had made direct, anonymous contributions to medical facilities, children's homes, and educational programs over a period of nearly 20 years. The documented cases alone numbered over 240. The actual number, lawyers estimated, was higher. He had a rule, one source told her: no names, no credit, no press. Walsh published the piece in March 2012. It was one of the most read articles of the year. The response was immediate. People came forward. Families who had received help they had never been able to explain. Bills paid, treatments funded, letters from anonymous donors that lawyers had always declined to identify. One family had received a check that covered 3 years of cancer treatment for their son. They had assumed it was a hospital charity program. It wasn't. Another family had been given a house, anonymous trust, signed over completely. They had lived in it for 11 years before the truth came out. A nurse from a hospital in Chicago wrote in. She described a man who had come in quietly one morning. No announcement. He had walked every ward, talked to every child, stayed for 4 hours, left without telling anyone his name. The staff knew. They didn't say anything. That was how he wanted it. Sofia Reyes read Rebecca Walsh's article the day it came out. She went to her desk, opened a drawer, took out a piece of paper. She wrote for a long time. Then she folded it, put it in an envelope, sent it to the journalist. Walsh called her the next day. The story Sofia told took 3 hours. The hospital visit, the concert. The drawing returned. The $1.2 million she had only found out about years later, when Diane Torres told her, before Diane retired. Walsh asked if she could publish it. Sofia said yes, on one condition: the headline could not be about her. It had to be about him. Walsh agreed. The piece ran the following week. It was shared 4 million times in the first 48 hours. People who had never thought much about Michael Jackson read it. People who had complicated feelings read it. People who thought they already knew the story read it. And then they read it again. Tode. Sofia Reyes is an architect in Los Angeles. She leads a non-profit that designs and builds affordable housing for families displaced by medical crisis. Families who lost everything to hospital bills. Families who came home from years of treatment and had nowhere to go. She named the non-profit after the drawing. The one she made in room 14, with a 7-year-old's crayon, on a piece of hospital paper. It is called Someday Home. Since its founding, Someday Home has completed 31 housing projects. Over 400 families. In the main office, there is a framed piece of paper on the wall, faded, creased, a crayon sun with a face, smiling. Below it, a small card, 4 words. He kept it. Pass it on. If this story moved you, please subscribe and hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that the greatest things people do for each other are the ones done quietly, before the cameras, before the credit, before anyone is watching. Have you ever been seen by someone when you needed it most? Tell us in the comments, and turn on notifications, because more stories like this one are coming.